Hey, it's Dan Melnick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zing, and I'm proud to be a sponsor of this podcast. So please check us out today as we can help fuel your business growth. myzing.io. Thank you.
Hi, Michael.
Good morning, good evening. Hello.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
I'm great. Firstly, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to interview you for my YouTube channel and podcast and for my channels.
Certainly my pleasure.
So I've gone through a profile. I can see you have done a lot of work in your life, and also you're doing a lot of work right now. So I thought to tell about your work and the work experience of yours to my audience.
Sure. My life has been fairly eclectic in terms of what I've done. I once interviewed for an insurance company job, and they said, "Don't hire this guy. He's got too many interests. He won't focus." And from there, I went on to other things. But there are a lot of stories that go with some of those things. Currently, I'm making movies, and I'm working with Toastmasters International as their district public relations manager here in New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma in the United States.
Okay.
They are currently celebrating their 100th anniversary, helping people develop their speech skills and their leadership skills. All volunteer organization, with the exception of an office staff at the central headquarters. And it's got 270,000 people. They're in 148 countries, and they have a little over 14,000 clubs. So no matter where you are in the world, there's an opportunity to visit Toastmasters and also to join if you find a club that you like. And you can join anywhere in the world, which is an interesting thing. So that's been my focus right now, plus the film that I'm developing. I spent a lot of time doing movies. The last 20 years or so, I've done several small features and some short movies. I've done one documentary that's got some distribution, and spent a lot of time in theater. So that's where I am currently. I spent a lot of time in the car business and spent a lot of time in radio and television in the past.
So how do you define this? Uh, you as a person who is into different things.
Well, uh, are you familiar with the idea of spinning plates on the sticks? Have you seen
Yeah,
that in circuses?
yeah.
And that's the way I do it. I just have to juggle it and make sure that I'm prioritizing the right thing at the right moment. Because they were right so many years ago, I don't focus on one thing at a time. I've got too many things going on, and but they say a busy man is a successful man. So a man who gets things done. Sometimes that's true, and sometimes it's not. Um, Now, who is your audience? Who do you have watching these interviews?
Most of them are from a technology background.
Okay. All right. Well, technology is not my line. That's one area that I have not excelled in. I know enough to be dangerous and little enough to be even more dangerous. So technology is I have an operator's ability, if you will, but beyond that, design or anything having to do with building technology, not me, not me.
So how you are able to focus on different things, being very effective and efficient? Is it possible for you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. One of the things that we just finished a couple of weeks ago is a teaser. We finished shooting it. It's in post-production now, but we finished a teaser on the movie, and I was able to allocate a specific amount of time to do that. We gathered a team together and managed to do it in a single day. Now, in all of that, we're planning for the Toastmasters International Convention coming up this summer in August. But in the meantime, we have a district convention coming up in April. So we're in preparation for all of those things, plus celebrating the 100th anniversary of this particular organization. Excuse me. It's a matter of deciding where the priority is at the moment. Right now, I'm forgetting his name. One of the motivational speakers says, "Do the first thing first." So, what's the most important thing? Do it. Then do whatever's next and whatever's next. And with that, and having a great team of people with me, we were talking about technology. I have a web designer who is a Toastmaster who is redesigning the website for District 23. Not something I suppose I could be capable if I wanted to spend the learning curve time, but she's already a dynamite web designer, and so she's handling that for me. So we have a team of people. I'm a firm believer that nobody does anything alone. It just doesn't happen. I mean, you can fool yourself into thinking you're doing it alone, but you're not. And I like to have what I hire the smartest people I can find and get out of their way. That's the way I work, and it pays off because I'm able to accomplish the things that need to be accomplished in whichever endeavor I'm working with.
So, award-winning
Brian
filmmaker.
Tracy. Brian Tracy's the fellow who said that. All right, and what was the question now?
So, award-winning filmmaker. You tell me, you as award-winning filmmaker.
Yes. I'm not sure I understood the question. A filmmaker, is that what you asked me?
Yeah, you as filmmaker.
Yes, I am a filmmaker. I've been doing that for almost 20 years. I happen to have the advantage of being a member of an entertainment family. It goes all the way back 3 generations. My mother danced in little vaudeville shows with her grandfather when she was 2 years old. My parents were involved in theater. My father was the director of Broadway musicals at the little community theater. And of course, we were of an age that they took us to rehearsals with us, myself and my 2 sisters. And then we went home afterwards and we performed what we just saw in the rehearsals. He also was a frustrated filmmaker in that he never got to the level he wanted to be at. What he did do was make a couple of little Western movies, silent 8mm Western movies back in the 50s with the kids in the neighborhood. And so we were playing cowboys on one side and Indians on the other side, and we were shooting ourselves. It just was a funny thing. But he managed to put together these films. And from that point, I learned shooting out of sequence, and I learned editing, as much as a 9-year-old kid can learn. But at the same time, when I got back into filmmaking as a profession in the 20 years ago, I think it was 2000, at the turn of the century, actually. And from there, I began learning what I could learn about it. Went through a producer's course, and I tell people I'm an actor before I'm anything else. Prior to that time, I'd been involved in theater, just live theater, local community theaters. Produced and directed, and then eventually opened a theater of our own. The economic situation in Albuquerque at the time was such that the owner of the building decided at one point that they were going to raise the lease about 5 times. And of course, that wasn't something we were prepared to deal with. It wasn't something that could be generated out of that space for any length of time. So we went ahead and turned it over to another theater company, some friends of ours, and they held on to it for another year before they ran into the same problem. it's now a bar and grill, the space we had our theater. So I suppose that's enough business to pay the rent on the place. It was a nice facility. I enjoyed working there. It was a little black box, and so 100-seat theater. We managed to sell out most of the performances, and so if they hadn't played with the rent, we would have probably continued because we enjoyed it. That's really the one thing that I think ultimately is my life. I tell people these days, do what you want to do. Do what you're happy doing. Don't do it to make a living unless you absolutely have to. Now, it's not practical to necessarily do what I did. I was close to retirement when I left the car business in order to begin making movies over a period of time. And we've been quite successful with some of those. A lot of awards on some of those small movies.
So how do you define this change when you started the filmmaking and the today's filmmaking and the way the audience now any movie is becoming wider audience and becoming a global one today? How do you define this difference?
Well, you have to have a script to start with. You have to have a good team, and you have to find the funding and the distribution. Now, with the current one that I've got, it's a romantic comedy with a little drama attached to it, and we've already have a letter of interest from a distribution company, a worldwide distribution company, and they have a worldwide sales agent with them in that process. So I've now managed to accomplish two of the steps that are essential in order to get worldwide distribution. I just participated with a friend in a film as an actor, and he's been doing what they call platforming. I'm not sure if you or your audience is familiar with that term, but it means you start off at one level, and when it reaches some success, you move it up and make it wider and wider and wider in terms of the distribution and in terms of gathering audience. Sometimes you can get away with that, and it does very well. There are other times when it doesn't, but then all the risk is on me and not on a big distribution company. Starts with a process called four-walling, where I go in and rent the theater myself to begin with and begin showing it there that way.
And how do you see this art, filmmaking?
How do I see it?
Yeah.
I see it as something I'll be involved in for at least the rest of my life. I'm not sure I understand what you're looking for with the question. I think that it's coming back now. We had a couple of strikes here in America that I guess maybe you've heard about, the writer's strike and the actor's strike, and it created a major disturbance in the industry. Now that the strikes are over, they're building things back up and things are starting to come in. All of the things that were ready to go before the strikes happened are now piling into the mix, and so they're really overwhelmed at the moment. I don't have any hesitation about saying that movies will be here forever. I don't know what format they'll be in. They may, they were in big theaters, and the trend lately has been streaming on things like Netflix and other streaming platforms. But that's sort of a new phenomenon in the last 5 years. Before that, we had the big blockbusters that played at the theater, and we still do. People want to go and sit in a group of other people and watch movies. It's a communal affair. And for that reason, I don't think we will ever lose theaters. I don't think we will ever lose different modes of music or of film. When you stop to think about film is a over 100 years old now, in that it started in the late 1800s with silent films. And the technology behind that, I'm not even going to try to describe because I'm not sure I could do it accurately. So we'll let your technical audience look it up and find out how that was done. But along came a technology advancement then where we were able to add sound to the movies. That was a different disruption in the industry. It began a whole new trend, but there are still filmmakers making silent movies. All right. So the things that have come are really not going to go away. The formats may change. Now, technology has got artificial intelligence that's worked its way into the industry. And the big fear, of course, of people in the industry is being replaced by artificial intelligence. They now can scan a person's being, face, body, and they can use artificial intelligence to generate a duplicate, if you will, not quite a clone like a clone would be, but essentially a whole new actor. And that would put a bunch of us out of business as far as actors concerned. On the other hand, it allows us to do things at a level that we haven't been able to do before now. So it depends on the ethics of the filmmaker. It really does. They've had some safety measures put into the latest SAG-AFTRA contract, but if the ethics aren't there, it's not going to stop an unethical filmmaker from doing that. And that's the problem. How do we deal with that? It's a whole different issue, though. Right now, it's helping writers write. It's helping directors put their films together. It's helping producers do things much quicker than they were doing them before, saving a lot of time and therefore a lot of money in putting a film together. So the technology is not going to stop there. It's going to continue to advance. I don't know how long I will be on the planet, but here I am, and I can see into the future that says technology has changed enough to this point that it will continue to change as we move forward and as new technological developments come about. So think about movies. They're here to stay.
So how technology helped in your filmmaking?
The changes that I've seen in that affect me in terms of filmmaking is the moving from, well, let's say DVDs, VHS tapes, for instance, or videotape. They moved to DVDs. Then they moved on now to where they have online streaming. So those are three major jumps right there in just the time I've been making films. So I have no reason to doubt that it'll stop. They're always looking for something to improve what they're doing, and sometimes they find it. One of the things that I did for a while that I don't do much of any longer is I did performance videos, and then we duplicated them on DVDs. Well, we don't do that anymore, so I've got stacks of DVDs sitting around that I may or may not use someday, or I may use them because I have the ability and the technology still to do it. The problem is the ability to play DVDs is fading out fairly quickly. I don't know how old you are or how far back your memory goes or how much technology you've discussed, but you know what an 8-track tape is? Hmm?
No.
An 8-track? No, you don't. No, you don't. Well, I'm old enough to remember wax disc. Okay, now some of your audience will know what that means, but they were album records made out of wax discs, essentially, and played on an old old phonograph machine. Then they moved to vinyl discs. They moved to LP long-term albums. You may be familiar with record albums that are used nowadays as frisbees, but they moved then to the tape mediums. And they started with a thing called an 8-track, which you played specifically in your car is what it was for. But it was quite popular for 5 or 6 years. And then they came up with cassette tapes. Cassette tapes took over the industry and were used in all sorts of different parts of the media for 10, 15 years, I guess. And then they came up with CDs and reel-to-reel tapes. And now they moved on to DVDs, and now it's streaming. It's Spotify, it's Apple Music, it's online. So if you have a store of CDs, hang on to them. That stuff comes back periodically, and you may want to use them then. So, but it's just advancing all the time, and so there's a constant learning curve.
Tell me, you as a producer.
And I'm a producer, yes. What's the question?
How is that experience producing?
Experience in producing, it's not the technology that's the issue, because the cameras are always improving. The sound is always improving. The things that gather the media, the editing systems are all improving all the time. So you have to keep up with the technology on that level. But in terms of producing, that job has not really changed in my mind. It's building a team and making a product. In the United States, the government has decided that filmmaking is a manufacturing process, which is an interesting way to look at it, but it is essentially. You gather a group of people to work together, and you build a product. You design it. The writers write it. They design, what's going to happen. We go into what we call pre-production, which is planning exactly how we're going to implement the plan. Then we go to production, implement the plan, and then we follow up with the finishing steps. The post-production is what we call it. But the work that's required, other than having specifics to the industry, is exactly the same as any project manager will look at. It's just different products, different terms. So in terms of producing, it really hasn't changed. You have to find the money. You have to find the way to get your film to market. So all of those steps are still there.
And how is this being a producer and trying to understand the script and producing the movies? How was that experience?
I'm sorry, trying to understand the what?
Trying to understand the scripts and produce, invest on it.
Sure. Movies are essentially written in 3 different languages, maybe 4, depending on how you're counting it. And by that, I mean the screenwriter writes it on paper. That's the first language. The director then comes and takes the script along with the producer, and they develop a plan. So that plan is the second script. Then when they finish implementing that plan, it goes into the edit facility, and that's the third script, and usually the final script, but then, it's messed around with some. So it's 3 different languages in terms of the technology involved in developing a feature film or a short film or even television. It just is the process.
And you as actor?
Yeah, I'm an actor. I tell people I'm an actor before I'm anything else. I've been in New Mexico, and Albuquerque is a large filmmaking center in the United States. I think you probably know that. And so a lot of the big time or the big money films from LA and from Europe and from New York and other parts of the world now come to Albuquerque to make their movies, and I get to audition for them, and I get to be in some of them. So I've had the opportunity to work with some of the biggest stars in the country that way. And I'd rather be on set.
And tell me what kind of projects that you worked for, and what was the best projects that you felt?
The best project I felt, wow, that's hard because I hear people complain all the time about a really bad set. I've never been on a bad set. I go in with the attitude that I'm going to have fun and I'm going to do my job and where everybody's going to get along. And so I do what I can to make that happen, at least in my little circle. And so I've never been in a bad production. There are some I know about that I personally glad I wasn't in, but I've done things like Beer for My Horses. You may have heard Toby Keith, the country western music star, just died recently. That was his movie. And I got to be in that movie with him and with Rodney Carrington and several others. And it was quite a big deal. I worked with Amy Adams in Sunshine Cleaning back, years ago now. And I got to say, Amy's one of the nicest people I've ever worked with. Just was patient and very good in interacting with us. But there are a lot of films like that are good. I prefer to do the comedies. I do the quirky characters more than I do straight characters. Although lately I've been doing doctors and reading for lawyers and other people like that. But I think because I'm a comic actor, I have been most of my life, one thing or another. I can do serious, but I prefer to do comic pieces. And well, here's an example. There's a movie out called Ideal Home. And I did that with Paul Rudd and some other people, playing a chauffeur. My job was to open the car door, get in, and drive away with him in the back seat. And they gave me one line. The other fella, oh man, I'm getting bad on names these days, comes out after a big fight with him and is, don't go, I love you, don't go. And my one line is, I certainly hope he's not talking to me. And it brings the house down every time, which is, a very nice thing. It's a one-line piece that creates all that laughter. I would rather create laughter than a lot of drama. I don't blow things up usually. Although in this film, we're going to blow some tires out, but that's not people, and it's really a comic scene. So I don't have a problem doing that.
And what excites you to do the job that you're doing? What is that driving force or that motivating thing for you to be in this art where you can able to create an emotion and convince listeners and viewers to connect to your imagination and get entertained?
Boy, how do I put that? It's one of the prime motivations is I get to be somebody else, right? I get to develop a character and I get to be somebody else. So I get to experience different parts of the world and different perspectives by being somebody else as an actor. And just the atmosphere of it pulls me in. I've been involved in one way or another with performance, as I said, all my life. And so movies and acting is just a natural. They say you're not born with it, but I'm as close to being born with it as I can be, having grown up with it and continued it all my adult life. That's what motivates me. It's also for me, it is relaxing. It's an escape from the daily drama that goes on in everybody's life. So I get to take a little time and go and be on set, and the rest of it just goes away, which is good.
You like fictional or non-fictional?
You know, I prefer nonfiction, or I'm sorry, I prefer fiction. I've done nonfiction. I've got a documentary that's nonfiction that's out there in worldwide distribution right now. A fairly heavy subject that I felt I had to do. It was not a pleasant experience overall, but because we did that documentary, it helped to get some of the laws changed in this country to help the victims of a certain crime, and that's important to me. I have a life of service is the way I like to look at it. And so whether I'm acting and making people laugh, or whether I'm being a mentor for young filmmakers coming up, or I'm being an advisor for young people of some sort, in my mind, I'm serving people. I'm serving the future generations, hopefully, and that's as important to me as the acting.
So 9 Point Productions is your own production company?
Yes, it is. 9 Point Productions has been around for most of that 20 years. It's set up to be an umbrella company, is what it is now. We have a separate company for the movie, an LLC, and then I've got a photography business that I run on the side that's under a different entity altogether. So 9 Point Productions is a clearinghouse, essentially. If you come and you have a script and you want a production done, I can put the whole thing together. And yet I'm a one-man band, if you understand what I'm saying. The production company is me. Well, okay. And all of the people then that I get involved in whatever project, and that becomes the company, and it gives us the opportunity. As I said earlier, nobody does anything alone. You know, I may be a one-man band in writing, if you will, on the legal documents. At the same time, there's no way I can do it by myself. One of the things that I know is what to expect from each participant in the project. Not that I can do it, but I know what to expect. And so I know if they're able and capable of doing their jobs. One of the things I advise managers of any sort is when they're dealing with their team and the team member comes to them with a problem. They say, well, we've got a problem, we need to solve it. They come looking to the manager or the boss or whatever, the team leader, for answers. My philosophy is they already have the answer. I don't know how to do their job. I mean, I can help them find answers if they truly don't. But what they're looking for is permission to implement their solution. And if it makes sense to me and they can show me how it solves the problem, I'm like, well, go for it. Let's see what happens. I don't think I have another philosophy. You can't make a mistake large enough that it can't be fixed. You might not like the consequences, but or the expense of it, but it can be fixed. So I encourage my team members to make their decisions, to make mistakes. You don't fail when you make a mistake. You learn when you make a mistake. You learn, okay, that one didn't work. Let's see what we can try next to make it work. It's a growth thing.
And what is the biggest problem that you solved in your life?
I've had some pretty big problems in my life. I think they have to do with kids and grandkids, really. We have 5 kids total, and my wife and I agree that if only 2 of them are in crisis at any one time, we're doing well. If it gets to 3 of them in crisis, then maybe we have. So the biggest problems, I think, have to do with relationships. You have to be willing to find solutions and work things out, and understand that you may not like the consequences, but it can be fixed. One of my daughters, who is old enough to know better, decided that she wanted to pick up a boyfriend now who was just about to get out of prison. She didn't know anything about him. That didn't last very long. When he got there, he was not a nice fellow, and so they got him on his way pretty quick. But yeah, so that's it's a relationship problem, is what it is, and that's where most of the people is, because I think I'm better than you. You think you're better than me, and we can't make those two ideas come together. But if we just stop and talk like we're doing now, you get to learn what I'm thinking. I get to learn a little about what you're thinking, and maybe there's common ground in there we hadn't even considered. So I think it's about relationships. You just build decent relationships and are as polite and civil about it as you can be. It does no good to be screaming at anybody or pointing fingers or calling names. That's just counterproductive. So how do we solve this problem? You come to me with the solution. Okay, try it. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm more than willing to get in, elbow deep into the problem to assist if they truly need assistance, because I truly believe that, again, nobody does it alone. The more voices you have involved in a solution discussion, the better the solution might be. So if we're really stuck and nobody has the solution, we sit down and talk about it. There's no point in stressing or getting angry or upset. It's just a matter of, this is a piece of something that needs to be solved. Let's do it.
So how is being in this creative industry or creative field in different roles, as an actor, as a producer, as a director, as a writer?
It can be confusing from time to time. I try very hard to make sure that if I'm the team leader, I'm letting my people do their thing. At the same time, if I'm expecting a result, I do inspect the work to see that it's getting done and, try to help whatever. But there's also the attitude of stay in your own lane. So if I'm on set as an actor, I'm an actor. I'm not a producer. So I try to keep my mouth shut as much as I can. Although I want to tell you how to do this, I don't. It's not my project, it's theirs. If they ask my opinion, I'll be happy to share it. But it's just the challenge there is staying in your own lane.
So today the whole filmmaking thing become changed. The platforms are too many, and there is so many places where they can showcase their art today. So compared to the previous generations. So
Yes.
what do you think, where we are going, and how it is changing, and how we have to adapt to the change?
Well, in the last years, since we managed to get digital cameras, and they have become very inexpensive in relation to what the professional cameras used to be. I had a project that I needed to rent an expensive camera for. It was $150,000 camera. Now, I don't know how that translates. The exchange amount is in any of the countries who are listening to us, but 175,000 USD is a little bit expensive. But you take now a camera that will do almost exactly what that $175,000 camera would do, and it's called an iPhone or it's called an Android. It's like the technology is right there. Now, what that means is that you can go make any movie I can make technologically. Now, you probably want to get some experience and some education by working on some projects and learning how it works. But there are so many people now who are doing it without doing that. Look at TikTok, for example. Oh, TikTok just drives me nuts. They get on and they start becoming clowns for the most part to try to gather audience. And then they become stars. I just have a hard time with that. But then I'm an old guy. So there you have it. That's the kind of changes that you're seeing happening right now, is it is becoming available to anybody who can get their hands on a camera, and a couple of friends who want to help them make a movie. So, it's going to continue that way, and it's going to become easier and easier as we go.
So, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So from 1954 to 2024. So how is the journey?
Long time. That's a long time. It's been up, it's been down, but mostly good. Mostly good. I've had a great time doing what I've done, and there's been some challenges, but for the most part, I've had a great time. I can look back on my life and say it was in all sorts of different measurements, it was a very successful life and very. I think it was valuable to other people. I like to think that. I like to think I have ideas that I've shared that other people have used and found to be helpful. But that's their decision. One of the things, though, that will give you, if you're a father, one of the things that will give you great pleasure is when your child comes back and you hear your stuff coming out of his mouth. Which means you had an impression on it, which is good because you don't always know. And I've got good kids. I've got great grandkids. I've now got 8 with the 9th great grandkid on the way. Most of them who are old enough are involved in the arts in one form or another, in entertainment, in flat arts, in fine arts. One of my daughters is great with stained glass and sculpting and just all sorts of different media. My wife is that way. So they went to rehearsals with us, and they've done theater, and they've done other things. They haven't done film yet, but they've done theater, and makes me happy.
So the information transfer that happens in human beings, it won't be similar like in other species. Like you are from 1954 to 2024. So the transfer of information, the generations that you have been and seeing different kinds of people in your life, this information transfer and the technology advancement and the evolution that you have seen with your eyes and heard with your ears. So how is this? How do you?
How do I what?
How do you say this whole purpose of your life?
I think that we are put into this life with a purpose, and that is to forward an ever advancing civilization. That sounds lofty, but okay. We have the factor of self-awareness that allows us to pass on stories like that. But I would hesitate to say that we're the only species that does. There's some really interesting studies that I've been reading pieces of lately where they're showing, well, I heard one this morning. A whale can, because of their communication system, can talk to another whale from the Antarctic to the Arctic at the same time. And that's pretty long distance, pretty long distance. And so what does it take to be able to do that? A lot of I've got two rescue dogs that were not comfortable being with each other when they first got here, but they gradually bonded, and you can see that they are learning from each other different things about how to conduct themselves in the family unit, because it is a family unit. And watching them communicate tells me that we may be the leaders in that capacity, but we're not the only ones. So uh, it's an interesting world. And if you just keep your mind open, uh, let stuff flow in and flow out, you'll run across some really interesting ideas and information from time to time. If you close off your mind and become fixed on a particular opinion, then you block yourself from getting some of those benefits. And that's what I was saying earlier. We sit down and talk about a solution as opposed to screaming at each other or fighting. We'll come up with a decent solution. And it may have some of me, it may have some of you, it may have none of me and all of you. But if we listen with an open mind and with the purpose of listening as opposed to jamming our own opinions down each other's throat, which is going on in the world way too much these days, then we will come up with some decent solutions. I don't think there's anything in the world today, and call me Pollyanna if you will, but I don't think there's anything in the world today that cannot be solved by the two parties or the three or four, however many there are, sitting down and talking civilly to each other, understanding what the problem is and understanding that they first have to change their beliefs and understand that we are all one people. I mean, I'm not any better than you are. I'm just different, right? So understanding those differences and taking those into account, all of the conflict and the wars that are going on in the world right now, they can come to a quick halt if their participants would be willing to do that. That's the big problem at the moment, is finding how to get those participants to the table.
And there
Didn't
must
mean to
be,
go.
yeah, go on.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get into that serious stuff so much, but because there are going to be some in your audience that don't agree with me, but that's okay.
And there must be the qualities that work for you to make things happen. What are those qualities in you?
I don't believe that there is anything that can't be done if you put your mind to it. And so if I take on a job or an activity, or somebody assigns me one or something that I agree to accept, there's a way to do it. Don't tell me I can't. Help me find the way, right? There's always a way, always a way. Again, you may not like the consequences and it may be a little expensive, but at the same time, the excuse you can't do that doesn't fly with me. Of course I can. If I get the right people in the right place and get the right people who have the same goal in mind that I do, or I can bring them to that same goal, then yeah, we can do it. And so that's probably the driving philosophy behind getting it done.
And how this
That ends.
film, yeah, go on.
No, I was going to ask you how that worked for you, but so
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I believe in what you said.
thank you. I'm glad. That means we don't have to scream at each other. No, we don't anyway. I have a Facebook site, and I don't allow any incivility. I don't allow people to call each other names. I don't allow people to try to force their thoughts down somebody else's. I'll let them present their ideas unless they get abusive with it. If they get to attacking somebody or they get um, just ranting without any facts. I spent a long time in journalism, news gathering, and one of my things is just because you say it doesn't make it true. I want to know where you got the idea. I want to know who you got the information from. Is that person credible? I mean, you're credible because you believe it, but why do you believe it? Where did you get it? Question the source, question authority. Big phrase in the 60s and 70s. Question authority. And we did on a regular basis. But yeah, I just don't. I'm really pushing to keep that as positive a place for people to be and to get motivated and do other things with. I am constantly surprised at some of the people I find reading what I'm saying. People I know that it's like, I didn't think they thought that way, but apparently they do, or at least enough to listen to what I'm saying. And I don't have all the answers. I have very few of the answers, quite frankly. I just have some philosophies based on a long life and seeing what works and what doesn't for people and for systems. Excuse me, for some reason my nose is running. Okay. I hate to do that on camera. All right.
So,
What else can I help you?
yeah, I have another question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, how you being in this filmmaking industry and filmmaking thing, how this entire thing, making movies, producing movies, writing for movies, and creating something that is not existed before, putting all together at place, and being a manager and working on different projects. How this entire thing affected you as a human being? What changes
It's
happened in
very
you?
sad. It's very satisfying. I can walk away and be very happy with. For instance, last week when we did that little 1 day project, I'm still being happy about that. It worked out very well, and I'm happy that the team came together. And it was a prime example of me trying to get out of everybody's way. We had the people who knew what they were doing, and they did it. And so, I set out expectations. One of the things that I do that's a little different than a lot of producers and directors do, you've heard about the wrap parties at the end of a production. I still do some of those, but I would much rather have a get together at the beginning of production, before production starts, so that the team can get to know each other. They're going to do that on the set. I'd rather have them at least have a head start going into it, and they can find out what my expectations are, and we can find out what everybody is about, and it works. It's very nice because when you get on the set, it's not who are you, it's how are you, and that works for me. And I try to do that with every team. It's a brainstorming session before we start. I ask for everybody's opinion. And one of the things that I do point out is that everybody's got an opinion, but somebody has to make the final decision. And in this case, it's going to be me, or it's going to be the director, or it's going to be whatever's happening in certain spaces. That's what's going to be the deciding factor. But we come up with some amazing solutions and answers before we even start by allowing everybody to have input. Does two things. One, it gives you some great answers, but two, it gets great buy-in from the team. And that's an important thing to have right up front. Yeah, I don't know of any, well, one or two, I suppose, bad apples in the group, but I don't know of any that have gone through that process that have had serious issues on set, because they all know that they're all trying to get to the same product, which is good. We all know that. And I used to say in other management positions, these people were employees. They worked for me. No, they work with me, and that's an important shift in my thinking.
So at last, as a producer, as a filmmaker, as an actor, as a person who is into writing, what is your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
I did not. I went and looked at the site to see what it was, and it looked very interesting. I will take some time to watch some of the interviews and look at them. I just haven't had the time to do that. What the complicated getting together in the first place. But I will make time to look at some of those, because a couple of those people look very interesting. I mean, to me, from my point of view, I think I can learn some things, and that's important. If I stop learning, you might as well start digging the hole.
So I usually take interviews of different experts from different parts of the world. More than 100
Yeah,
countries experts I have interviewed in last 3 years, and more than 700 interviews I took who are from different professions, who are into different industries, and who are from different parts of the world, and who are into different age groups, and who are working on different things, having different experiences, coming from different backgrounds, different
right.
uh, 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 places. So, as a person who is into filmmaking, how what do you say? How this experience is going to be helpful for me in future, talking with hundreds of people around the world?
You're going to have a lot of philosophy, personal philosophy that you've heard from me. Some of it's going to make sense to you, some of it's not. Some of the people that you run into are going to agree with you and maybe have additions to that that make more sense out of it, right? And I don't mind that at all. If we can generate a better answer for that particular question, then yes. But you're not going to be able to walk away from this interview, as neither am I, without having ideas that will carry with you for the rest of your life, because some of them will make really good sense to you. And as I tell people that I'm mentoring or I'm teaching, is like, you've heard opinion from me. Really, it's all you've heard tonight is opinion based on my personal experiences and things that I believe. Okay, if some of that opinion works for you, use it. If it doesn't, discard it. I won't be offended by that. I've shared something I think is important, and if it rings a bell for you, particularly in talking to other people, if you want to share it with other people, be my guest. Some of I said will not agree with me. I've had that opportunity from time to time, but at the same time, I think that it's a way, right? It's a way that things can work very smoothly for you. So from your standpoint, I hope you got something out of this. I know you have stuff that will stick with you, but whether it's useful to you or not, I don't know. That's something you have to decide. And how you decided is fine with me. Gave me the opportunity to share, and that's what I did.
So I personally did a master's in software engineering, also bachelor's in computer science and engineering. Right now, I'm doing
Uh-huh.
some software engineering projects for a UK company and a US company uh, from India. I live in India. I remotely
Yeah.
work. So uh, that is my full-time job. Apart from that, I'm taking interviews of experts like you who are already in the industries and have solved different problems in their lives, in their
Uh-huh.
professions, and worked on different projects, having different experiences. I'm trying to explore and trying to put on my platform and trying to let people know how you people have solved problems in your life that may relate to their problems that they are going through or they are going to have. So just trying to understand the whole scenario of the being here on this planet. So that's more
Yes.
that's my
Yeah.
intention. So being a
I think
technologist,
it's a great intention.
having a completely pure technology knowledge, software development, software engineering knowledge, communicating with computer, that's my job. But apart from that, I want to understand communicating with people and trying to know different perspectives and how they look at things, how they can able to solve problems in different ways. So, what is your observation? How I'm going to uh, use this knowledge in future?
Your life is going to be richer than it ever could have been had you not started this project, because you will have the opinions of so many different people in so many different areas that it will affect your thinking. But you will have the ability to think critically because you've talked to the people who are involved. You've talked to the people who should know what they're talking about. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But the point is, you've gathered all of this information and you've made it available to the world. Seriously, with your two sites, the YouTube and what was the other one?
My
I don't
website,
remember what the others. Yeah, your website.
podcast.
Okay. All right. So doing that, you're spreading information that is helpful to everybody on the planet. Think about that for just a minute. This is not just some I'm going to interview these people because it's kind of a fun thing. It carries a lot more implication than you think it does because how old are you?
I'm 31.
21. Okay. I wish I had your sense when I was 21.
I'm 31.
I'm seven. I'm 75. I have a couple of years on you. And the one thing I know looking back is that I've been able to affect other people's lives positively, right? And that's what you're doing here. There'll be some negative reaction. As they say, the haters will hate. But at the same time, you are doing an amazing service for mankind, providing this outlet for information. You will be well in demand one of these days, if you're not now. 21. Wow. Congratulations. That's
I'm 31, sir. 31.
31.
Yeah, yeah.
Two or three?
Three, 1.
Three. Oh, 31. Okay. Well, still, I've got a few years on you. 31. Well, I still don't think I had what you've got at 31. That was a time when you didn't want to know me. It was, I've undergone a lot of work, a lot of changes to come to different philosophies and um, realize that I wasn't the center of everybody's world. So, but I want to thank you. You really are doing a great service. Now, one more thing I want you to do for me, if you don't mind. Pronounce your name.
My name is Sai.
Sai. Okay. I wouldn't have been that far off. Sai. Okay. Sai, thank you so much. I don't know. We've already gone on a little bit beyond what I think we both expected, but thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the
Sure.
opportunity to visit with you.
Do you have a message to the listeners and viewers who are watching and listening to you, this conversation from any platform, from any part of this planet? Do you have a message to them?
Yes, I do. I think that they just heard it. It's my opinion. Take what you can use out of it and use it, and discard the rest of it. But consider it before you discard it. Seriously consider it. Over, my lifetime experience has shown me that it makes sense. And because I'm involved with an organization that's worldwide, I have the opportunity to interact with people all over the world. And as a result of that, I discovered that at the basic core of it, we're all the same. We want to have a decent life. We want to be able to have a way to make a living. We want to have some roof over our head of some sort, and we want an opportunity for our children, and that's a very important thing. And if we stop and consider that when we're talking to somebody else, that's really their life as opposed to my life. My life's the same. Like I said, we're all the same, but we're different. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. You're not better than any of the others, and they aren't better than you, even though they may want to convince you they are. It's just, people. But when you remember that, you're not better. They're not better. They're just different. And you have things to learn from each other. That's an important thing.
Great. People are already heard it. Even if one person understands and implements what you said in their life, and it works for them and it works positively for them, you will be the reason for the change that happened in their life positively, and I'll be the person who is being the reason for creating this.
You know what? Yes, you're right. That's true, but I probably will never know it. And you probably won't either, because it's not important. What's important is they got the message. They understood what I was saying and how it could affect their lives. And that's an important thing. I don't need the credit for it. It's not ever been a big thing. I'd rather give the credit to my teams and the people like you who are delivering the message. Yeah.
But definitely, the energy is coming from you. So definitely, it is going to be the reason eventually. So can I
Oh,
put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
oh yeah. I wouldn't be here if you couldn't. Certainly.
And
Certainly,
also,
Sai.
can I put this video and audio clip on my podcast website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
But you can put it anywhere you want to. There are
So
going to
do
be
you
people who don't agree with me, and you'll probably hear from them, but you can put it anywhere you want to. I have no problem whatsoever with the things I'm saying.
and do you want to share your babblings with my audience who are listening to this? They can follow you and they can see the work that you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, you can connect with me any way you like. If you come up with something that you decide you want to question me about, let me know. Let me know. I'm more than happy to help you with this. This is a great project.
So I'll put your work in my website. People who visits my website can able to see the work that you're doing and can able
Mm-hmm.
to see the further projects that you're going to work for.
Sure, sure.
Thank you again, Michael, for your valuable time and sharing some of your experiences and answering some of my questions.
You're more than welcome, Si. More than welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Take care. You have a good day now that you're up.
Yeah, sure, sir. Have a good evening.
4 o'clock in the morning. You too.